Hey, it's your buddy Tim Schiller, and we are back with part two of our Raid Beginner series. Part one was focused on champions and gameplay, and part two will be focused on artifacts and gameplay. There's going to be some overlap because some of the things we've learned about our champions, we're going to build that information out and how artifacts will help your champions do the job that they are meant to do. So we're going to go over how artifacts work on champions, where to get the artifacts, what some good artifact sets are, and then some artifact strategy. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. Okay, welcome back. We are on part two of our beginner raid series. If you watch part one, that was focused on champions and gameplay, where part two here will be focused on artifact and gameplay. And if you watch part one, you can see I am on a different account right now. I'm on an account that was gifted to me by one of my subs, which was very, very nice. And I have to warn you, it's got some crazy champions on it. But it is more progressed, so we'll be able to talk about artifacts, and we'll be able to do the four things that I want to do in this video. The first thing I want to do is I want to explain what an artifact is and how it benefits your champion. Then part two, I want to explain where do you get the artifacts for the level you are in the game. And then part three, I want to talk about artifact sets and how they work together to improve your champion. And then finally, I'm going to talk about some artifact strategy and what is a good artifact to keep, what artifact you want to invest your money in to roll up, and what artifacts should go on what champions. So with all that in mind, let's go ahead and start the video. Okay, so we obviously have already started the video, so I ended that section a little bit awkwardly, but we are going to talk about the first thing I wanted to cover in this video, and that is what is an artifact and how does it benefit your champion? So with that in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to look, and I told you this has got some crazy champions on it. We're going to look at a champion that we really didn't get to look at in our first series, which was champions and gameplay. And in that first series, we pretty much only looked at attack-based champions. And we had the one support. We had War Maiden, who was a good support and actually carried us to a couple of wins that we wouldn't have had if we would have had all attack champions. But this is a little different. Haikatoon is what's called a speed champion. And the reason they call her a speed champion is for this aura. She brings speed in all battles by 19%. And then what her abilities do is she reduces the turn meter of your enemies on a 5-turn cooldown. You can book it down to 4 if you put books in. On a 5-turn cooldown, because I don't have any books for her, she reduces the turn meter, has a 50% chance of reducing turn meter by 15%, which is good, right? We talked about how turn meters affect the frequency of attacks that you do versus your opponents. So what she does, what her A2 here is she'll fill the turn meter by 15% and place a 15% increase in speed. That goes up to 30% if you can ascend her to 3, which I don't know if I've done that with her yet or not. I'm not sure I have the ascension. So she's got speed here, speed here, speed here, and then she does a little bit of damage and decreased speed here. So it's pretty obviously why she's called a speed champion. And she is a free-to-get champion. If you stick around long enough in the game, you get her at 90 days, I believe. If that's not right, bear with me. So anyway, if we go to our index and we look up, which I believe she's a barbarian, right? Yeah, Haikatoon. If we look up Haikatoon and we see what her base stats is. This is Haikatoon at level 60 with no gear on her, right? She's got 16,350 hit points, attack, blah, 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 on and on. You can read all that, right? So how do we improve those stats to make her an even better champion? Well, there are a couple of ways, but the main way is using artifacts. So if we go to our champions and we click on her and we go to her artifacts and we hit total stats, it will show you what our base is. Now, obviously, her base is less than the base was shown on the index because my Haikatoon is only level 50. And as we talked about before, the best way to get stats on your champion is to level them up. And so while she's only 50, she doesn't have the things she needs to have to make her run optimally. So she's obviously high on my list to get to level 60. I'm just waiting for the right chickens or food that I can level up to get her to level 60. But you can see this next is the artifacts. So the artifacts are adding all these stats, and then you get some stats from Classic Arena, which you should be doing your Classic Arena every day. And then her total stats are over here. So with all that being said, how do artifacts work, and which artifacts should we be looking for? So there are 3 levels of artifacts, and that's shown very well here on the speed set. There is the rare artifact, which has the blue border. This is a rare 5-star artifact, which would limit, if we hit upgrade, we can see that the main stat will go up to 225 attack. All weapons main stat is attack. So the 5-star will go up to 225. Let's see if we can find a 6-star weapon. So we can look. 6-star goes to 325, I believe. 6-star goes higher, 3-star goes lower, 2-star even lower, obviously. So when, here's a 3-star. So let's see how high this goes. 155. So you can see it's considerably different. So obviously the more stars, the better, right? Now, let's go back and look at our speed. So our main stat is attack, and then rare items get 2 free rolls, they call it. A roll is just substats that are given to you for free. This one has speed on a speed set and crit damage, which is very good. If you go to a epic artifact, let's see if we can find an epic that isn't rolled already. Here's an epic artifact. 5-star epic artifact. You get 3 free rolls. And then if we find a legendary, you get all 4 free rolls. Now, why is that important? Well, if I were to roll on this, and I'm looking to stack stats, I could possibly get 2 rolls into one of these, which would be helpful. If I wanted to stack stats on an epic, I could get 3 rolls into one of these. And if I wanted to stack stats on a legendary, I could possibly get 4 rolls, which is a bit of a unicorn, but it does happen in top end. My main account has several 4-rolled items, especially on my Arbiter, who you're looking for speed. But yeah, you also get all these free stats, right, that get doubled whenever you roll them up. Where this one, after I roll through 8, I'm just getting a single roll into the stat, and I'm losing out on some free stats that a legendary would have. So those are the 3 levels of artifact and how they interact with your character. Now for the next section, we're going to go ahead and talk about artifacts and where you get them for your level. So stick around. Okay, so we're on part 2 of artifacts and gameplay. In part 2, I want to focus on where do you get the artifact set that you want. And that question depends upon the level of your account. So if you're just starting, you're going to get your artifact sets from campaign. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find the artifact set that you want. Each of these stages has a specific artifact set, which is represented here by the thumbnail. And you're going to want to, in my opinion, and I'll get more into this on artifact strategy, but early on, you're going to want to focus on the Palace and the Vladimir Strait, which has speed and lifesteal. And you're also going to want to battle the boss, because the boss has a chance of dropping rare gear. Everywhere else in the campaign will drop common and uncommon. And while it's not terrible gear, getting as much rare gear as possible is a good thing to happen. When you progress further, you're going to be able to battle in the dungeons. Now, each of these dungeons does a specific thing. Each of these dungeons has a list of artifacts that they'll drop. Now, each of these dungeons also has a very unique boss, which does very unique things that I could cover in a later video, but I'm not going to cover that right now. Possibly in a follow-up video after 3. So possibly in that. But you're going to want to pay attention, at least early game, to Dragon's Lair. Now, if you notice here, it shows you a little chest with a number. So if you battle stage 1, you're only going to get 1 and 2 star gear. Stage 3 will get you 2 and 3. Stage 5 will get you 3 and 4. Stage 7 will get you 3 to 5. Stage 10 will get you 4 to 5, but it's not until you get to 13 that you actually start to see some 6-star gear, which is very, very important. So getting to stage 13 on a dungeon is really, really good, because obviously that main stat gets much improved on 6-star than it is on 2, 3, and 4 stars. So battling that is good. And what you'll need to do is you'll need to put together a team for each of these dungeons. Now, I'm only going to talk about Dragon, and we're going to run through, but I'm going to tell you I have, for this team, I have a speed booster, I have a healer damage dealer, I have a poisoner damage dealer, I have a provoker, a defensive, and then I have a debuff type champion who has got a very special passive. Most of these guys are to get through the waves. There's 2 waves before you meet the dragon, and then this guy is there to kill the dragon. So let's go ahead and we'll start this, and you can see it run. And then we'll talk about the artifact piece that drops. So she increases her speed first. He does his debuff. Now they're all defensive down and weakened. We have speed on us. She's just decreased their turn meter, so they don't really get a chance to go, and we get through wave 1 fairly easily. See, their turn meter is really low, this yellow bar, and Dracomorph is going to finish them off. So wave 2 can be tougher because a lot of our abilities are on cooldown and no one's really booked. So getting through wave 2 can be difficult, and you see they have a apothecary who just put speed buff on him. He will also do some heals, which makes it very difficult. So we're going to hopefully get through stage 2 pretty easily. Wave 2, hopefully. So there goes the defense down and weaken. So that should mean some of our other cooldowns will be coming up here in a minute. We got 1 stun. Sile's going to pick up our High Katoon, and we should be fine. So there you go. And again, all we're trying to do is get to the boss with Dracomorph so he can pop in his poisons. Now, if you don't know, see, look at all those poisons. If you don't know, Dracomorph is possibly, well, I would put him in top 5 champions in the game, both for his defense down and weaken and for all the poisons he does on the boss. Now remember, each of those poisons is going to do 5% of the boss's damage, and then these will last for 2 turns, and then, well, now these are going to last for 1 turn, and these will last for 2 turns. So every time the dragon gets a turn, these will click, and the dragon will lose, and he just put another series on him, so now he's going to lose all kinds of health when he does get a turn, and he will end up killing himself on the poisons. So we don't really care about anybody else but our Sile and our Dracomorph at this point, and Sile only because she is going to keep our Draco alive. And but the dragon is going to die on his next turn because all those poisons are going to kill him, and that will be the end of him. And then we will get, hopefully, our nice new piece of 6-star gear, and we didn't. We got 4 mystery shards. So that happens. But let's go ahead and we'll go to the champions and look at our set. So let's suppose we would have gotten this piece. 5-star accuracy set with these substats, right? Fantastic. So that's what we got. So that is where you would get the items you need. So just as a refresher, right now, Dragon's Lair is very, very important. Spider Den will drop artifacts. And if we didn't talk about that, artifacts are this 3rd row down here, which are rings, necklaces, and banners. And they do the same things that these do, but they're just additional areas to get stats onto your champions that are unlocked based on their ascension, right? So he's ascended 3 times, so he can get this. He needs to be ascended 5 times to get this, ascended 6 times to get this. You can find the artifacts by clicking on the artifact, and then the artifacts will come up, and you can get those from Spider. And then possibly the best sets in the whole game, once you get towards mid-game, is the Fire Knight. And the Fire Knight has some very difficult mechanics and requires a whole skill set that we don't need to get into here, but there are plenty of videos out there to talk about what the Fire Knight does. But the Savage set, the Stun set, the Shield set, the Crit set, Regen set, Immunity set, all very, very, very good and should be obtained at some point. But if you are just starting and just got yourself through campaign, Dragon's Lair is where you want to be. Get to 13 and farm 13. Now, if you don't know how to farm, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can use your multi-battles. You get 30 every day. Or you can purchase more if you want to. I wouldn't purchase until you get to level 30 or so, or in 6 weeks into the game, so you understand what you're purchasing. Or you can use what's called an auto clicker. If you want more information on auto clicker, leave me a comment, and I will let you know how to do the auto clicker and where to find that. So that is the end of this segment. We're going to go ahead and move on to segment number 3, which is artifact sets. Okay, thanks for sticking around. If you're still around, we are going to talk about artifact sets and how they benefit your champion. So, as you can see, artifacts come in sets, and you'll build out these sets as you move through the game. Right now, these are the sets that I've built out. There's some more in Doom Tower and things that will, and your Forge that will eventually add in. But these are kind of all the main sets that you'll get. Now, you can see what each set does and the number it takes to get the bonus from that set. So like a life set, you only need 2 pieces, right? And what the life set does, it will tell you down here. 2 pieces of this set will give you 15% HP. Now you obviously have 6 spots, so if you had 6 of those, you would get this times 3, which would be 45% HP, which would be very, very handy. So offensive set, you only need 2, and you get 15% attack. And then let's go to a 4-piece set. Let's say you wanted to do regeneration, would give you 15% of your heal, 15% of your max HP every turn, which is helpful. And obviously you can only get that once because you need 4 of those. So let's talk about some of the very, very important sets that you want to focus on early. So speed set, you get 12% speed with 2. So if you have 6 of those, you obviously get 36% speed, which is very, very helpful. And lifesteal, here it is. Takes 4. You get 30% of healed, 30% of the damage you deal, which can be very, very helpful, especially if you're attacking multiple enemies. You get a lot of damage and you get a lot of healing from that. So you can see that while you have stats on your actual artifact, you also get stats based on if you can put a set together. Now, I'm going to tell you that while sets are very good, stats are better. So if you can get better stats without doing a set, especially early game, I would suggest you do that. If you get better stats or equal stats using the set, then I would say go ahead and do that. So that should wrap up on sets and how sets work with your champion. And we're going to move on to the last section, which will be artifact strategy and some just quick tips that I've learned going through this game. Okay, so we're almost done, and I just wanted to go through a few strategy ideas and quick tips to help you progress through the game using the right artifact sets on the right champions. Now, this is where we get into some major overlap, right? Because we are putting artifacts on champions to do a specific job. Now, let's talk about a champion like Dracomorph. Dracomorph is a legendary attack-based champion that has 2 jobs. His job is to land his decreased defense and weaken, and land his poison. The damage will happen automatically. However, the damage is based on attack. So we want to do a couple of things. We want to have accuracy, which helps land his debuffs, and we want to have attack, which help him do his damage. Now, the best way to increase attack is keeping your critical damage as high as possible, or as close to 100 as you can get. So you can see I'm not anywhere close, so I can't quite get there yet, but you have to prioritize a champion like Dracomorph to make his kit work correctly. So one of the things I do is I look at the champion and I say, okay, the most important thing is landing his decreased defense and weaken, because that is going to mean everybody else on my team is going to do more damage. But if he's also landing that, he's also going to land his poisons, which are what kill the dragon, which get me the artifacts that I want. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure he has enough accuracy. So 129 is barely enough accuracy to get through 13. Now, a good rule of thumb is to look at the level of dungeon you're on, multiply it by 10, and that's the accuracy you need. So 13, I should have 130 accuracy, and I don't quite. So, but I'm so close, I'm not too worried about it. So let's take a look at that champion again, and maybe we can add a, see if we can add a, if I have any enchantments. I do. I have. So I'm gonna up his accuracy on this by 8 using a glyph, which is here, enchantment. So now I'm gonna have 137. So I'm almost ready to go after the next stage. But I probably need to upgrade some of his gear, which means I'm going to sell a bunch of the gear that I don't need, and get some silver. Now, the best place to get silver if you're farming is Spider, because the bottom row gear here sells for a lot more, and you can make silver that way. Definitely the easiest way to make silver in the game, or at least to make a lot of silver. You can also campaign farm, and while you're leveling folks, you get some silver as well, but it's not nearly as impactful as farming the Spider and the other dragons. So yeah, so accuracy is first. I need to make sure he's landing his accuracy. The second thing I need to do is I need to make sure he's got enough speed that he doesn't just get lapped all the time, meaning that the enemies I'm fighting don't get to attack twice before he gets to attack, because that means he'll probably die before he gets a chance to attack. So again, he is running very slowly. 150 for a Dracomorph is slow, but early game, that's probably about where he needs to be. When you get towards mid game, he should be closer to 190 to 210 is kind of where I think he should be running to go after the bosses in those games. Actually, you're going to want your Draco to be your defense down and weaken champion, so you probably want your Dracomorph running closer to 250. And foregoing some of his accuracy, foregoing some of his damage to make that happen. So I have 2 sets on him. I have accuracy, which gives me 40 to have 2, and then I have speed on him to try to get him a little extra speed to be going faster. So he is, if you look, so he's going at 150, and he goes second. Now the person who goes first is my buffer, my High Katoon, my speed champion, and she is going at 157, which is 7 faster than my Dracomorph. So the idea is High Katoon goes first, then Dracomorph goes, so she gets everyone sped up, lowers the turn meter of the enemies. Dracomorph goes, puts his debuff on, and then all my champions get to do more damage, right? So on her, I have 2 sets of Divine Speed, which give her 12% speed per set and a 15% shield. So she's got 24% more speed and 30% self shield for 3 turns as she goes to give her a little extra protection. So, and then after that, then it's all about damage, right? So I have my Visix, and she's very, very, very slow at 109. And then I have my Tormund, who is very, very, very slow at 104. And they're just sort of bringing up the rear. And then my Syl, I wanted to get going fast. She's the 3rd fastest because she is doing some heals on her passive, where she is healing everybody by 10% and putting a speed buff on somebody every time she gets a turn. So obviously, the more times she gets a turn, the better. So, but you don't want her really going before your debuffer or buffer. So she's obviously getting more speed when Haikatoon gets to go first, and then Dracomorph goes and she gets her idea. So I have 2 sets on her, which are both immortal sets, and she gets some healing every time she gets. So she gets 6% extra healing. So she's doing 16% to herself and 10% to everybody else. So again, you have to look at, and she's got no skills necessarily that I need to land. So I'm not really interested in accuracy on her. And so I am more interested in making sure she is fast, has a lot of hit points, and good defense, because her skill, her damage is based on defense. So we want to make sure she's going fast with lots of hit points and lots of defense to do some damage. And then obviously crit rate would be the second most important, that I can't super worry about now because I'm not far enough into the game. But once I get some more gear and start to gear these folks out, we can get them moving faster. And with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch to my main account so you can see what champions start to look like when they are fully built out. So stick around. Okay, so I'm on my main account, and I apologize. My green screen is not doing well today for some reason. So I got some new lights on order, and hopefully I can get this fixed. I split time, and I'm not at my main place where I have a better setup. So I'm just kind of making do. So I apologize for the quality of this video. But nevertheless, we can look at what a champion is supposed to look like when they are built out. So I do not have a Dracomorph on this team, but I have a Venus. And a Venus is a Dracomorph that does similar stuff, but doesn't have the damage. So she's a poisoner debuffer. You can see she does decreased defense and weaken, and then she has a chance of poison on her A1, and she also does an HP burn. 50% on her A2, so you can see she's not quite as good as a Dracomorph, but if you don't have a Dracomorph, you have to do what you can do. So on her, I have a speed set and a relentless set, which means she gets an extra turn 18% of the time, hopefully, and you can see the way I have her built. I have her going at 241 speed, so she is usually the second person going on my team, and with a decent attack, close to 100% crit rate as I can get, and then lots of accuracy to make sure she lands her stuff. Now my speed leads on this account are obviously Arbiter, who she's the speed lead for my arena team, and she is obviously moving very, very fast at 346, and then everything else really doesn't matter for me because I want her to be speeding up all my other champions, because this is what she does on her initial. So she increases the attack of everyone and then fills their turn meter by 30%, and then heals everybody by 25%. So yeah, she is probably the best speed lead, and also we talked about her being a free on the mission. You get her as you move through the mission. So I was able to finish that, and we picked her up. And so those are the two. Those are the super fast one, and then the fast one, and then we can look at damage dealers or CC champs. So CC champs would be like a Gurgaw that's going to freeze everybody, and I have him running at 262, and then which is obviously faster than my Venus, but since he freezes everybody, he's got tremendous accuracy, then then my Venus can still go. Or you have like a warlord who is at 239, taking everyone's cooldowns away and being just quite the menace. And then finally, you would have damage dealers, and probably the penultimate damage dealer in the game is Trunda Gilt Mallet, and I have her running right at 200 with close to 100% crit rate with decent crit damage in a crit damage set to give her some extra crit damage. So that is kind of what the champions end up looking like, and you can shoot for something like that. But I hope that gave you a good idea on artifact sets, where to get them, how to use them, where to put them, who should be going first in your team, and all the good stuff that comes with artifacts. So I will be releasing part 3 of this beginner series tomorrow, and that is going to be on currency in gameplay. So there's lots and lots of different currencies in this game, and what should you be paying attention to, and are any of them worth spending money on? So we will talk about that tomorrow. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. That would help me out greatly, and we'll see you next time. God bless.